Hello, welcome to Amok Studios. Last week I had a comment on the chupacabra bolo tie about wanting to see how the tips were made. So this week I'm just going to share my favorite way to make bolo tips. So I like to start with tubing. It's a quicker way to make a tip and a little more contemporary looking to me. So the trick is to get the tubing that fits your leather cord because these come in all diameters. The one I used last week was pretty thick, but a lot of times you can find tubing that's just a perfect fit. This week I am using a cord that's a lot narrower. So I've got this tubing that's pretty close. So there's not a whole lot, ooh, Victor, not a whole lot of gap between the cord and the tubing. So we're going to use this one. A little tip for your wood block when you're cutting tubing is to file a round groove that your tubing can sit into. Especially if you don't have a tubing cutter, this is a great way. And then I've just sawn into it so I can rest the tubing in that groove and cut right through the slot that I've created. I'm going to make a couple of discs for the end caps. So I've got 2 discs punched that fit this perfectly with just a little bit extending outside of the tube. I'm just going to use some easy paste solder on this. So I'll just dip my tubing and get a little bit of paste solder on there. I'm using titanium strips that I've bent that are holding my tubing. If you have a third arm, that works good, or just some cross-locking tweezers to hold it up. Anything to kind of keep it straight for you. Of the pickle, and I gave them just a light sand with some sandpaper. So you could, if you wanted to really make the tips match the bolo, if you had some stamping or design work on it, you could have done that to the bottoms here before you soldered to make it match. I mean, you could go crazy and solder other elements to it. Hi, Victor. Wow. Lots to say today. You could solder like a half jump ring here to have a dangle if you wanted some stone elements to hang like we did last week on the chupacabra. Lots of fun things to make the tips match the artwork up top. It doesn't have to just be a plain tip that's kind of separate. This week though I'm working on skulls that are pretty contemporary looking, so I'm going to leave the tips just like this. I'm going to mark how far down I want my tabs to be cut. Really won't take very much, but it's always good to have a guideline. So I just like to set it in the groove of my bench pin and spin that around with the marker. kind of see, I've just made 4 cuts. Well, 2. You saw it went across both sides, just down to the marker line. Now I like to use my triangle file, and I'm going to go in and file on each of those cuts to kind of separate. Went in and smoothed over those edges just a little bit. So I have my tips that are patinaed and polished to the point that I want. So I'm ready to attach it. My bolo's not ready, but I can show you one end here. So I've put it all the way in so that the leather hits the tip here. And if you wanted, just for extra security, you could put a little drop of a 2-part epoxy on here, just to make sure, and then it'll hit the bottom and have a little more security. But once I bend these, it's not going anywhere. So I'm taking some nylon pliers, and I'm just going to squeeze those in. Take a mallet now and just kind of give it a little bit more. So there we have a nice contemporary looking bolo tip. That's my favorite way to do it, is cutting these little tabs in. You could even just keep it cut straight across and use the 2-part epoxy to hold it in place, especially if you have a tubing that really fits snug around your leather. But yeah, I love just this little tip. And there's lots of things that you could do to change it up and make it match your artwork up top again. So, I hope you found that helpful. If you would like to see a more traditional, like a conical shaped, with maybe a bead at the bottom, just let me know in the comments below. I'm happy to do another video with a different style of bolo tip. We'll see you later.
Wow.